You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There is a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at Post Office Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for February 18th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where fans of Pimpernel Smith are always going to find safe harbor, or at least harbor freight. It's the Professional Left, Drift Glass, and Blue Gal.
Harbor Freight
Harbor
is
Freight.
One of Drift Glass's favorite havens.
I love going there and bathing in the soft, cool lighting of the fluorescent lighting, and the people are so sweet. The doors are not automatic. Carts have to be manhandled through the door in a way that's very awkward for everyone involved. It doesn't matter. It's charming. And the last time they paved their driveway was, I think, during the Carter administration.
I think so. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I don't care.
No.
I don't care. That's all it's like a dive bar.
It is like a dive bar for tools.
It lends to its charm that everything's cheap. A lot of it is good if you know where to look. Mm-hmm. And it's got history. It's got
I think it appeals to the guy who wants to think he has expertise.
Sure.
And knows where to find. He's done a lot of research into what the good tools are.
And you know what? Here's a cheap version of the good tool that I can get for half the price.
Yeah.
So
it's bargain hunting also.
And people work there and are knowledgeable. They'll help you out. It's got a high percentage of MAGA people, which is problematic. But again, I have volunteered many times for our East and West Coast friends. You do not need to send scary safaris into the interior to find out what MAGA voters are thinking. I can do it for you. I will drive them wearing what I am wearing now, flannels and my ripstock Carhartt pants. I will blend. And
plaid flannel.
Plaid flannel.
Yes, he is wearing plaid flannel. I can attest to that now.
I can blend seamlessly into the background and do all of your reporting and spying for you. I'm very tall, but they'll never notice. I'll wear a cap. It'll be great.
Yep.
And it's winter here, so everyone's lumpy and covered up anyway. So come on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
By way of finding our footing and coming to terms with what we are all going through and also having a little bit of escape, but at the same time, knowing that what we're watching is podcastable.
Very important.
We, Driftglass and I, have been doing our staycation dating in the living room screening of what you might call resistance theater. A few nights ago, we watched Passage to Marseilles, which, if you go to YouTube and look at the trailer, it is absolutely a studio follow-up to Casablanca.
Yep.
And the studio was looking to make another Casablanca because they made bank on Casablanca. So
yep, absolutely.
So they hired all the same people. This is a 1944 Michael Curtiz film that reunites so many people. Now, Ingrid Bergman, they couldn't afford Ingrid Bergman anymore. She was off doing Hemingway movies, But they got Humphrey Bogart, Peter Lorre, Claude Rains, Sidney Greenstreet, and Nazis.
And Nazis.
And Nazis.
And collaborators. And
collaborators. And yes, and French collaborators. Okay, so they've got all of that. This is sort of a what if Rick Blaine was a newspaperman who got caught in Paris by the Nazis instead of escaping to Casablanca.
Right.
And he's a newspaperman who's written this scathing column about French capitulators to Hitler. And so Bogey and his compatriots, including Peter Lorre, wind up in French Guiana in this horrible prison camp. Mm-hmm. Building a road that's been built just as a punishment to the prisoners for 16 years, right? Through the jungle. And there is an old man who's no longer in the prison, but he has nowhere to go. And so he hangs out outside the prison. And he, as the war continues and it's clear that France is threatened, and he loves France, he's French, he calls them together, Bogey and some other people, including Peter Lorre, and funds their escape and asks that they take an oath before they leave him to go back to occupied France and fight the Nazis. And he makes them take an oath in the middle of the jungle. And the oath is this: I promise that I will do everything in my power to reach France, our country, our mother country we love, in fair weather or foul. I promise to fight for her to the last drop of my blood. And then the old man, knowing that he's going to die there in Guyana and that he'll never see them again.
Because the boat's not big enough.
The boat's not big enough for him to go.
Right.
And he's too old to fight.
Right.
And he wants the boat to be filled with fighters.
France needs every man.
Every man.
Yeah.
And his only requirement to pay for their boat is you have to go to France and fight for France. And he knows he'll never see them again. And he says, I guess that's all, except to get in the boat and not waste any more of this good wind. Good luck. And it's just heartbreaking. He's got tears in his eyes and everything. Now, this, unlike the next movie we talk about, this is a violent movie.
Yes.
The prisoners shoot Nazis.
Yeah, they do.
And many of them who do fight for France fight to the last drop of their blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's blood in this movie. This is a violent war movie.
So, and so put it in modern context. Bogart is a blogger who writes about his country, France, capitulating to Hitler.
Yep.
And instead of throwing stones at the people who went and negotiated the surrender of France, they throw flowers at him. And can you believe it? Can you believe it? And he writes
the crowds are throwing flowers at these Nazi collaborators. Yeah.
And the cops, as his newsroom, his print shop and newsroom are stormed by the mob because he wrote this article and smashed to bits. The cops walk by and laugh and just knowingly walk past because they're collaborating too. And he really gets the sense that I fucking hate France. He says that not quite.
He says that I hate France. I hate everything it stands for because they've capitulated to Nazis.
And his girlfriend and people around him say, but it's not everybody. It's not everyone. There are people here who will fight. It's just that the bad people are currently in control. Anyway, it's a hell of a good movie. And
you can feel his bitterness.
Oh, you sure can.
It's very pertinent to today. Yeah.
Bogart was always good at the man who's lost all hope and has now become a cynic.
Yep.
He's real good at that.
Yep.
But that last night, that was a couple of nights ago, last night, we watched one of Blue Gal's favorite movies.
It is in top 10 of my favorite movies of all time. It is.
And it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful movie. It's called Pimpernel Smith, which, according to Wikipedia, is, quote, a 1941 British anti-Nazi thriller. And don't we all want anti-Nazi thrillers now? Produced and directed by its star, Leslie Howard, who was a very small man with a very big talent.
Yep.
Which updates his role in The Scarlet Pimpernel, which is 1934, from revolutionary France to pre-Second World War Europe. The British Film Yearbook for 1945 describes Leslie Howard's work as, quote, one of the most valuable facets of British propaganda.
Yep. And he was killed in a plane crash because they thought Winston Churchill was on the plane, but he was flying all around Europe to raise money and do propaganda for the war effort.
Whatever he could.
Yeah.
This is a time when celebrities didn't just do 60-second commercials for Kamala Harris.
Right.
They were actively fighting Nazis, including flying bombing missions over Germany. This is something I did not know until I looked it up, and I'm like incredibly impressed by this. The film helped to inspire the Swedish diplomat Raoul Wallenberg to lead a real-life rescue operation in Budapest that saved tens of thousands of Hungarian Jews from Nazi concentration camps during the last months of the Second World War, unquote from Wikipedia, which, films, propaganda, speeches really do inspire people to do amazing things. Don't underestimate the power of speech. If you ever want to know about the power of speech, watch the St. Crispin's Day speech.
From Henry V.
Henry V. Watch this bedraggled group of men come to believe their king really will win. This child king really can win. Inspiring speeches. And here's the thing that we on the left need to learn. There are people on the right who are so brainwashed and so dead upstairs and have watched so much Fox News for so long. They're willing to die for Donald Trump.
Yep.
He has fanatics on his side, and fanatics never fucking get tired. They burn out, they collapse, they implode, they do crazy things, but they don't get tired. And we don't need to have fanatics on our side, but we do need to have true believers in democracy who can rise up and fight the fascists and inspire others to do so. And that's our mission for the next however many years it takes to get these assholes the hell out of our system.
Yep. So at the risk of spoiling an 84-year-old movie, and I do recommend, it is on YouTube, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's called Pimpernel Smith.
Yes.
We thought you all might enjoy Leslie Howard's speech toward the end of the movie when he finally comes face to face with the Nazi who has been hunting him for the entire film.
Why do I talk to you? You are a dead man.
May a dead man say a few words to you, General, for your enlightenment? You will never rule the world because you are doomed. All of you who have demoralized and corrupted a nation are doomed. Tonight you will take the first step along a dark road from which there is no turning back. You will have to go on and on, from one madness to another, leaving behind you a wilderness of misery and hatred. And still you will have to go on, because you will find no horizon and see no dawn until at last you are lost and destroyed. You are doomed, Captain of Murderers. And one day, sooner or later, you will remember my words.
Now, to bring us into the, 20th century, I suppose, later in the 20th century, I'm going to misquote Mad Men's Don Draper. Because today, I'm not here to tell you about history. You already know about history. It either lives in your heart or it doesn't. What I am here to tell you about is the deep reptilian fear that MAGA mopes have of history. History scares the living shit out of these people. The judgment of history is why they not only abandoned W in the minute he became a liability, but moved them, put on stupid hats, and pretend they'd never heard of him. They'd become the Tea Party who'd never heard of George Bush and were independent constitutional conservatives. It's why they still fight like devils over Confederate monuments and flags and the names of forts named after Confederate traitors. If they cared about history, they wouldn't completely reverse themselves every time they claim to believe something every few days, because through the lens of history, that makes them look like the worst kind of either imbeciles or hypocrites or both. Now, this is important. They didn't hire Trump for a second time because of the price of eggs. They hired him to erase history. Mm-hmm. Their history, specifically their history. Erase decades of stupid, racist, self-destructive things that they've said and done. They hired him to perform what the Romans called damnatio memoriae, which roughly translates as the collective forgetting of figures from history, which can include the burning of books, the destruction of icons and images, and the rewriting of histories, which is what they're doing right now in front of everybody. This is from Alexander Meddings, who's a Rome-based writer and historian. Quote, "This article looks at the practice of forgetting as it applies to Roman culture. We refer to their posthumous attacks of someone deemed to have disgraced their community as damnatio memoriae, or the damnation of memory. This is not, however, a term the Romans used themselves. The senatorial decree, this was a decree by the Senate that this be done officially, would have passed to desecrate someone's name and image was instead called absolutio nominis, the abolition of one's name. But the term damnatio memoriae is more appropriate as it captures every aspect this practice entailed, from banning people from grieving for the deceased to removing their images or portraits, destroying anything that might have produced or have produced to eradicate any physical legacy they might have left behind." Unquote. Everything. There were emperors that literally chiseled their predecessor's name out of granite, erased it from granite monuments, and typed their own over it. There's a line from the Ten Commandments where the Pharaoh is so angry with Moses for betraying him and being a Jew that he decrees that Moses' name be wiped from every obelisk and every monument, that he just be forgotten by history. That is what they hired Donald Trump to do for them.
Right. It's not just pardoning the J6ers. It's
No.
calling them heroes
Exactly.
and victims.
Exactly.
And that is exactly what Dirk Glass is talking about. And the fascinating thing is, this week, Jesse Waters, who is not a bright person,
No.
gave the whole game away on The Five. And I'm not going to play Jesse Waters because I think he's a garbage person, but I will quote him. He helpfully explained exactly how the right does this and why nagging Democrats to message better is not nearly good enough. Here's what Jesse Waters said. We are waging a 21st century information warfare campaign from the left. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it. And by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice he doesn't say it doesn't matter whether it's true or not.
No, and it doesn't.
It's just propaganda, and he doesn't care.
It's ammunition for the machine gun of propaganda. Just keep
Exactly.
feeding it, belt feeding it. And I have more than I would care to think about online and on my blog gotten very angry with ally Joe Walsh, who like loses his shit over something he sees on Fox and shakes his fist. This is what Democrats keep doing. They keep doing this stuff. And I've backtracked the quote and found its origin, which was either misquoting or quoting out of context or just lying about something some asshole on X or Twitter on the right said about somebody, which was picked up exactly like Waters says, picked up by social media, and then it became viral, and then it was retweeted, and then finally it was on Fox News. And then the end product of that has our ally, Joe Walsh, screaming at Democrats for doing this sort of thing all the time when Democrats didn't do a goddamn thing.
Right.
It happens all the time.
Fox News edits tweets that they read to make them fit the story they're telling. So they'll say, Joe Smith in Illinois says this, and they read his tweet, and it's Fox has left out the part of, I'm worried about my Social Security.
Yeah. Yeah. And
they just leave that out.
And this is what's maddening about our Never Trump allies, which is they never trace this shit back and go, the problem is Fox News and whoever this asshole was tweeting it lying. The problem is Democrats do this stuff all the time. No, Democrats can defend against a lot of things that we can't defend against shit that's just made up and repeated by our friends as an indictment of how Democrats need to message better. That is insufficient to the cause. Now, here's an example. This is from Clarksville Now, Dateline Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Books mentioning slavery and civil rights removed from shelves at Fort Campbell schools. Quote, an elementary school at Fort Campbell, home of the 101st Airborne Division. Librarians are hard at work scrubbing the shelves. But they aren't scrubbing for dust. They're scrubbing for books that contain references to slavery, the civil rights movement, and anything else related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. On February,
it's mentioning Black people and Black history.
Yeah, can't have that. Too divisive, Blue Gal. Too divisive.
Makes white people feel bad.
Very bad. Makes them feel icky, especially in Kentucky, apparently.
Yeah.
Although this is on February 6th, the DODEA, the Department of Defense Education Activity, sent to administrators and school employees at 161 American schools around the world a letter, quote, to ensure compliance with executive orders and recent DOD guidelines, unquote. By the way, both my mom and my dad taught at American schools in the Philippines when I was a kid, and I guarantee you my parents would have seen this letter and wiped their ass with it and thrown it into Manila Bay. Because this is not what you're supposed to do as a goddamn educator. This is the opposite of education. But all these goofy things that Trump's goons are doing, like little things like this, and big things like unilaterally changing the name of Gulf of Mexico and banning any reporters from saying otherwise, all of that is to establish the precedent that the regime has the right to change anything it pleases anytime it wants to, from the names of things to historical events. And of course, where you and I see fascism infesting our institutions like a virus, in an act of truly top-notch groveling, Axios' Jim Vanderhei sees, quote, President Trump and Elon Musk, arguably the two most unorthodox, influential American leaders of the 21st century, are practicing and fine-tuning a fused theory of governing power, masculine maximalism, unquote.
And I got news for Jim Vanderhyde. That capitulation to Nazis is going to be in his obituary.
Sure. And as is, you looked at these two idiots and saw masculinity.
Right.
Really?
Right.
This pasty billionaire drug addict asshole and this bloated orange carcass of a human being. You said this is what masculinity
Grandpa
means
Syphilis.
to you. Yeah. Okay. Way to go, man.
Yeah. But as we've said before, we have faith in the relentless power of reality.
Yeah.
A tyrant might be able to rewrite the past to suit their whims, but they can't rewrite the law of gravity. Sooner or later, reality will have its way. For instance, as we've noted in previous episodes, when shareholder value becomes a news organization's only value, not only is honest factual reporting strangled, the laws of the marketplace do not change. And this shareholder value thing cuts both ways. This is from the Wall Street Journal, February 14th, 2025, and hat tip Keith Olbermann for bringing this up as well. Paramount executives ask, could they be sued for settling Trump's $20 billion CBS lawsuit? Media company executives fear liability from potential settlement paid before Skydance merger. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
There's so much layer of bullshit in that. But it'll be seen as a bribe by our shareholders. Quote, Paramount Global is wrestling with whether to settle President Trump's lawsuit against its CBS News unit and how it might do so without exposing executives to future legal threats, such as accusations of bribery. Company executives in recent weeks have talked about the risk that paying such a settlement could expose directors and officers to liability in potential future shareholder litigation or criminal charges for bribing a public official. According to people familiar with the conversations, some executives have expressed an additional concern, get this, this is so covering your ass, that such litigation may not be protected by director and officer insurance. Some of the people with knowledge of the discussion said Paramount is awaiting regulatory approval for its merger with Skydance Media. Some executives have flagged the potential risk that if the company settles and the deal is approved in short order, the payment could be construed as a bribe. Of course it's a bribe.
Yeah.
The people familiar with the matter said.
I got to say, read the fine print. Your insurance may be canceled in case of bribery, which is what this is, nakedly and openly.
Flat out,
yeah.
It's absolutely is bribery. And that's why Trump is asking for it.
Well, and extortion. It's extortion and bribery.
I won't have your merger approved if you don't pay me $20 billion over the table.
Yeah. Well, and we'll settle. We'll settle for something smaller.
We'll settle for $10 billion.
But what I want is control of your company. I want to be able to tell you.
And the whole thing is this is about editing. See, this is about 60 minutes editing for time, by the way.
Right.
A Kamala Harris interview. When Fox edits Donald Trump interviews for content, because he goes off on a crazy tangent about the Gulf of America. By the way, this whole Gulf of America thing, I know it is quintessential. We will rename things and all of you will bow to my renaming if I decide to call my cat Julius Caesar.
Right.
All of you will bow down to what I say, that he's Caesar. On the other hand, something's not right with that guy's brain.
Oh, yeah. No, he's got rotten brain.
Yeah.
He's got rotten brain.
And we need to just continually call that out.
Yeah.
This is inauguration size on steroids.
Right. This is he is the sock puppet through which the worst people in this country hope to manipulate their various areas of interest. And the problem is the sock puppet that Donald Trump is, who will sit obediently at his desk while Elon Musk does his shit in his
Holds
office.
Court. Yeah.
And he will sit obediently at the table while Vladimir Putin tells him what to do and think. Occasionally, Grandpa Syphilis pops off and says something crazy that fucks up everybody else's plans.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the problem with having a deranged, syphilitic, lunatic, racist scumbag as president.
Narcissist.
And remember,
everybody
who voted for him knew he was this guy. Mm-hmm. So no Republicans are going to get any absolution from anybody on this side of the aisle if I have anything to say about it. They fucking knew. They did it
Knew
anyway.
he was a snake when you let him in, right?
They knew he was a snake in
story.
in 2015. They knew he was a snake. So
Yes, yeah.
I'm done listening to how we should gently treat with ginger hands the terribly fragile feelings of the bigots and imbeciles who inflicted this on us. I want them to suffer enormous amounts of regret because of the pain they're about to suffer from the decisions they made. For example, here's another example, this time from the retail giant Target via Boing Boing. Quote, Target scrapped DEI to please Trump. It's not helping business. Uh-oh. Target is learning that its efforts to please Donald Trump and the GOP have done nothing to improve its bottom line, while generating worse real consequences, reports Ariel Messman-Rucker from Yahoo Finance. It is beset by lawsuits, and its share price is going nowhere good. I believe it's dropped total value in the billions of dollars, into these like 10, 12, $17 billion drop in their stock prices, so share prices. So way to go, Target. Last month, Target joined major corporations across the country who have been rolling back diversity initiatives in the wake of President Donald Trump taking power. The company also issued a memo that said it would end its racial equity action and change program and will be, quote, stopping all external diversity-focused surveys, including HRC's Corporate Equality Index, quote, the Advocate reports. Target shareholders, led by the City of Riviera Beach Police Pension Fund in Florida, that's a mouthful, and you are screwing with the police pension fund in Florida. Congratulations, man. Filed a class action lawsuit claiming Target defrauded them by artificially inflated stock prices and failing to warn investors about how removing DEI and ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and governance policies, could cause stock prices to plummet, Forbes reports. The lawsuit also says that Target concealed the backlash it suffered from the May 2023 Pride Month campaign after the company removed the LGBTQ plus merchandise after confrontations happened in its stores. The legal spit roast appears to be that Target both concealed the risk of DEI initiatives and concealed the negative consequences of ending them abruptly, unquote. You know, pick a side, guys.
Pick a side, and by the way, you've picked a side. This is the thing. Someone in that company has spent zero time studying who their customer is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because the big thing about Target in the past 2 years has been Black-owned cosmetic companies.
Yep.
If you walk into the cosmetic section of Target,
and we have,
there are black faces all over that department. And that has been that cosmetics are always a moneymaker because the prices are so inflated for products that, you know, the number one ingredient is water in most of them. So it's all packaging, and it's all how the product makes the customer feel.
Uh-huh.
And you're buying from a Black-owned business, so you're buying from potentially your sister. You know, this is reaching out to young Black women and young non-white women. And by the way, I know I've said this before, the majority of children, and I mean children under 21, who are in public schools today in America are non-white.
Yeah.
So this is a young audience. This is people that like to listen to SZA and, you know, they like Black artists, they like Black music, they like Black movies, and they like Black makeup.
And they understood what was going on at the Super Bowl halftime show.
Right.
And this, you know, it really does remind me of Do the Right Thing. Where you're in the pizza store going, you know, who's basketball hero? Who's the boxing hero? You know, how come you have all these Black heroes on the wall and there's no Black faces behind the counter?
Right.
And it's a hot summer day and it's a movie that is genius all the way through, and I haven't seen it in decades, so I'm not going to quote anything from it because I'll get it wrong.
This is it. You want their money. The money is green.
Right.
And then, and also Target is where liberal white women go because they don't want to shop at Walmart because of how Walmart treats their employees.
Because of Walmart.
So, it's a class thing. It's a race thing. And like you say, pick a side. This is what I say about Joanne Fabrics. And drag queen sewing hour, you know? Go all in one way.
Right.
And yes, you will piss off bigots.
Right.
Bigots don't have as much money as black and mixed race people under 25.
Right. Who are committed.
Disposable income.
Who are committed to crafting their own outfits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and again, a little bit off the tangent, but not too much. Also, Mad Men. Pete Campbell.
Oh yeah.
Ran the numbers and went to one of their accounts who sells television. I don't know, Zenith or somebody.
Yeah, right.
And said, we have found a place where you can make more money, and that's with black customers.
Jet Magazine. Right?
And you can advertise pennies on the dollar. And they were horrified that you want us to become a black TV company? What's wrong with you? And they almost lose the account, and Pete gets scolded. But Pete's argument is, you already sell to these people.
Yeah,
you could sell more to them. What the hell is wrong with you? He doesn't see this.
It's money. It's money on the table that you're leaving there. Right.
And
this is a cheap way to get your name out to people who have money to spend on TVs.
Well, and after he's reamed out by his bosses for, telling these people and scaring the customer, scaring the client, they do acknowledge that you have uncovered a market that we have overlooked.
Yeah.
Which is full of people who would like to have televisions in their home, color TVs, and have money to spend.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. So,
and now you've pissed off by going anti-diversity,
right,
for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's going to get your executive officers a tax cut.
Uh-huh.
This is it. If shareholder value is your only value, you will lose.
Well, and shareholder value was why they made such a big deal about having DEI programs and promoting that, et cetera, et cetera. And the minute Donald Trump's hand touches the Bible, they reverse themselves and say, we never meant it. We never meant it. It was all bullshit. We're going to undo all that stuff. Please don't hurt us. Well, now you've pissed off everybody because the people who hate you anyway because, you let black people in the store.
You did DEI, and DEI, by the way, with Trump world is the N-word.
Right. You can't undo that by sucking up to Donald Trump, but you can now piss off all the people that thought you were sincere and
on
thought
their
you
side.
were thoughtful and thought you were on their side.
You liked equality.
Yeah, well, and the author ends the article as follows. The author believes that, quote, Target, thinking its customer base of middle-class suburbanites was turning away from DEI, is the result of elite media turning away from DEI. Had nothing to do with the customers.
Yeah.
The floating world of news and opinion poses itself as the voice of that demographic. The people who come in town and do safaris to diners in Ohio. Mm-hmm. But the reality is DEI is quite popular with the sort of people who shop at Target.
Correct.
Even when the questions nudge respondents, even after months of hostile reportage, DEI remains above water in polls. The idea that efforts to hire minorities, veterans, and the disabled are some démodé leftist fad is a symptom of journos and pundits wake surfing right-wing social media.
Right.
Unquote. We get back to Jesse Water. They create this entire fictional universe of outrage over whatever the fuck it is, and dum-dums in the middle, the elite journalists believe that that's what the public is thinking, and then Target goes, oh my God, the public doesn't want this anymore, well, let's get rid of it, hurry up quick, without ever bothering to find out if any of that's true, and any of that is true for the people who buy their products. It's
called researching your customers. Ask your customers. Yeah. Anyway. And I think the other thing is, hiring disabled and veterans is part of DEI.
Very controversial. Very controversial.
Say controversial again. Okay. By the way, just in other media news, Glenn Kirchner says he's leaving MSNBC. Well, okay, fine. We haven't watched since the election, so, we don't know. But it makes me wonder what the hell is up with guys named Glenn.
You tell I suggested that, perhaps.
I dated a Glenn once.
Yeah.
A long time ago. This is from his explainer on Substack.
Yeah.
Quote, the concern I think I tried for a long time to ignore or suppress was whether I was reaching diverse audiences. Put another way, was I penetrating conservative bubbles or was I just preaching to the converted? I think it's fair to say that relatively few Trump supporters watch MSNBC and relatively few Biden-Harris supporters regularly tune into Fox News Nation or other right-leaning outlets. Well, good for you in calling News Nation a right-leaning outlet. Good for you. These days, we don't seem interested in talking across the great political divide. Rather, we retreat to separate echo chambers, not trying to convince or even talk with the other side. It's become us versus them, with seemingly little effort to try to appreciate or understand why we've been driven so far apart. If we can't even talk with one another, how can we ever begin to bridge the divide? So I decided to do something different. I don't pretend it will have some huge impact. I'm just one voice. Still, if we could put enough voices together, we can create a chorus that just might be heard. I decided to offer myself up to any and all conservative news outlets to talk about the legal issues of the day from the perspective of a career federal prosecutor, unquote. I really wish Steve Gilliard was still alive.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
He'd have something to say to Glenn Kirchner about the other side.
Well,
and building,
build those bridges.
A chorus.
Yeah, a chorus of bridges. Let's build a chorus of bridges.
A chorus of bridges of career federal prosecutors.
Yeah, who apparently can just quit their job and be fine, which is awesome for you, I suppose. This does remind me of a thing that always bothers me when our friends and our allies, as well as the right, forgets the existence of anything before 2016.
Yeah, 8 years of the Obama administration.
All of history.
Yeah.
We had a chorus. We reached across. We begged people to join us in the middle. Our president, Barack Obama, was willing to give away 80% of his agenda just to get some cooperation. He was willing to pass the conservatives' health care plan. And they told him to go fuck himself. And then the Republican Party nominated the king of the birthers. Mm-hmm. And now they've reelected the king of the birthers, knowing he was even
After
worse.
39 felony convictions.
Right. Even
and
knowing
responsibility for sexual assault. Yes.
Right. Well, after seeing him up close and personal and seeing what wreckage he left behind and what a monster he was, and you want to reach out to these people.
Yeah.
How exactly do you plan to do? What common ground is there between the arsonist and the fireman? Mm-hmm. Between democracies and fascists? I think either you're delusional or you'd really, really like some of that Fox News money.
Yeah, the centrist money.
I prefer.
You think that this is a marketing decision?
Oh, this reads like no labels, David Brooks, the right way, the third way bullshit. Which I guess there's still a lot of money in that pot because because there always is, isn't there? Because there always is. Elon Musk announced that, quote, the safety of air travel is a nonpartisan matter. SpaceX engineers will help make air travel safer, unquote. I got to ask, okay, it was pretty safe for 16 years. And then Donald Trump was sworn in. We've had, 4 or 5 crashes in the last 3 weeks. So safe from Trump, I guess, and Trump sticky fingers and the Trump administration. But let me translate this for you. Musk is trying to privatize the FAA and take the profits for himself. He's firing government employees so he can contract the work to his own company and bypass any pesky regulations that might apply to his exploding rockets. Mm-hmm. What he's doing is storming government departments, and he and his incel clown posse know nothing about what they do, and mandating that 10% of employees get sacked right off the bat. Just whack 10% right off, because that's going to save a fraction of 1% of the federal budget. This used to be called, some of you might recall this, some of you private sector folks might recall this, rank and yank. You rank everybody on a curve, you take the bottom 10 or 20%, and you just fire them. And then everybody else moves up, and then you do it again in 2 years. You just keep firing people and saving money, except sometimes it's done without the rank part. And I've seen this done up close, very close. And I can tell you exactly how it works. I worked for an insurance company in Evanston. This is a tiny, tiny microcosm of what Musk is doing to the federal government. I worked for an insurance company. It was run by Nepo baby idiots, third generation. They were in trouble because they had been playing around with the company funds and investing in things that were stupid. And now they were looking at, holy shit, our shareholders might be mad at us. And we're not very good at this. So to quote Batman Returns or The Dark Knight, whichever one the Joker was in, they hired someone they didn't fully understand. They hired a consulting firm to come in and do re-engineering. And re-engineering at that time meant taking a fucking axe to everything. and finding the dead wood. And what these people did was they ended up in my department. They took aside an incompetent old man named Jerry, who was the head of the underwriting unit, who had a wife and a kid and 3 kids and college and a house, presumably a mistress and a boat and a plane, a whole bunch of expensive lifestyle stuff he'd built up over 30 years in this company. He said, Jerry, you got 2 choices. Choice number 1, we fire you because your bosses gave us the right to fire anybody we want and rewrite everybody's job description. So here's what you're going to do. We're either going to fire you, and you're going to go out and try to explain to your wife and your kid and your mistress why you can't afford to do nothing no more because you have no talent at all. You'll never find another job. Or we can make you the vice president of information technology. And what you're going to do is you're going to let us run everything. You're going to let us set up an office inside this company and operate out of this company like an invasive species. And most importantly, you're going to let us break the contracts of all the consultants that you currently use on some fucking pretext. And we're going to get all that money because any money you're spending on consultants for any reason belongs in our fucking pockets. And I got involved in this because they came to my little part of the universe and asked me, wouldn't you agree that everything wrong in this department is because of this Cambridge consulting firm that you've been using for a year and a half? And I said, no, they're doing great. They saved us on one project. They're helping us with this other one. The idiot over there been working on the same project for 6 months and failing. And the woman before her promised she could do it in 6 months and failed. And, that might be problematic because they keep replacing the project manager over there because they keep promising things they can never deliver. But the consultants that we hired have been very flexible, very reasonable. They've renegotiated their contracts. They've been really, really partners in trying to help this dysfunctional company of ours along. Next thing I know, my boss is being handed a script. I am being fired for cause. My boss is in tears. And the consulting company says, and if anybody calls looking for a reference, we're going to tell them that you did everything. You fucked this company up, and you're never going to work in this field again. And that was the end of my career. And It came in like fucking locusts and took the place over. But the key was getting nitwits and weaklings at the top to give them the authority to rewrite people's job descriptions at will and to fire whoever the fuck they wanted. At that point, you now run the company because you now control the lives and livelihoods of the employees and their families. And you can use that threat to get whatever the fuck you want. And that is exactly what Musk is doing right now with his incel clown posse. That's doing it right. He's doing it in public, and nobody in the Republican Party is objecting. Because they're all terrified.
They're terrified, number one, of Trump's base.
Right.
And secondly, many of them agree with it.
Right.
They want the federal government reduced to a bathtub. This is their philosophy. And if it doesn't have their name on it and they don't have to vote aye, they think their jobs aren't threatened. And we've got to threaten their jobs. We've got to take away their jobs in the midterms.
Well, yeah, if when things go south, they can say, Elon Musk did it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. That was Elon.
No, they love this. They love this because he's drowning it in the bathtub, and they can say, well, that was Elon Musk. He may have gone a little too far, but I still support the president in their safe districts. Yeah. And he's got to say that because I say he because it's mostly he's. Musk is going to primary them.
If they step out of line.
If they step out of line.
Yep.
It's all about protecting their cushy jobs.
All right. Enough happy talk. Let's talk about the news, good gal.
I love you, Drift Glass.
I love you too.
These are tough times, guys.
Yep.
And it's important to watch anti-Nazi propaganda films.
Yeah.
Inglourious Bastards, if you can handle it.
Yeah.
But if you can't if you want something that's erudite and fun and romantic and outwits the Nazis, Pimpernel Smith
is very good.
Is excellent.
Is very, very
excellent.
Good. Or Raiders of the Lost Ark. A lot of dead Nazis in that.
Yeah, Nazis, I hate those guys. But make no mistake, what we're in now is a Nazi occupation.
Yeah, we're unoccupied
of our government.
Yeah,
that's what we're in.
Yeah, and you're either a collaborator or a patriot. There's no middle ground anymore, kids.
Fists in the air, everybody.
Yep.
Vive la France! All right, we're going to do a news roundup. The cornfield resistance persists. Again, fist in the air. From the Telegraph, revealed Trump's confidential plan to put Ukraine in a stranglehold. This is, again, something's not right with this guy's brain. Trump presented Zelensky with a confidential plan under which whatever remains of Ukraine will be locked up as an American puppet state for the foreseeable future, with the nation's mineral resources completely in U.S. hands. If this draft were accepted, Trump's demands would amount to a higher share of Ukrainian GDP than reparations imposed on Germany at the Versailles Treaty. And we all know how well that went.
That worked out great for everyone. Everyone was happy with that.
Especially all those people that have been fighting for Ukraine for months and years.
Yeah.
And have lost family members to the war. And now the answer is give it to Trump.
Yeah. They've been fighting with...
Give your country to Trump instead of Putin.
They've been fighting with American weapons, with American support, and now they have America's dagger in their back.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. The proposal was deemed unconscionable, extortionate, and worthy of a mob boss. Well,
yeah.
When the label fits...
Yeah, checks all the boxes.
Yeah. It seems clear that the terms were calculated so as to ensure that it would be rejected by Ukraine, making it easier for Trump to justify a complete sellout of Ukraine to the Kremlin, which is obviously exactly what Trump wants to do, unquote. Yeah.
I read something earlier today that one of the ministers in Ukraine joked, well, you can't have our minerals, but how about we pay you in eggs? How's that?
Good. Ba-dum-bum.
Ba-dum-bum. This is via Mark Elias, hero Mark Elias, breaking in a 4-3 decision. The Wisconsin Supreme Court reverses lower court decision and dismisses voter suppression lawsuit. This is a big victory for our clients in the Wisconsin Alliance for Retired Americans and Voting Rights in Wisconsin. Another stinging loss for the GOP. And don't forget, Wisconsin, you've got a Supreme Court election where early voting starts March 18th. And if you have questions, ask Middle Child.
Middle Child, Wisconsin voter, our Middle Child. Oh, yeah, Mom, I know all about that. Yeah. All right. From CBS News, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, boo hiss, has notified the U.S. Postal Service's board that it's time to begin the process of identifying his successor to lead the 250-year-old postal network, USPS announced on Tuesday. No specifics were given as to the timing of DeJoy's exit. Listen to this CBS News sentence. His tenure has been marked by controversy. Starting with concerns, Driftglass, concerns that service cutbacks would hinder vote-by-mail efforts in that year's presidential election.
Yeah.
You know, all we need is DeJoy being replaced by some shipping magnate hedge fund manager.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'll keep my jokes about 4 to 6. It'll arrive in about 4 to 6 weeks. This is from the Financial Times. This is regarding what we've talked about already about the relentlessness of reality. Reality will come and get you. Is corporate America already souring on Trump? Weird. Quote, optimism at the prospect of tax cuts and lighter regulation has given way to anxiety over trade policies. Oh, man, if only there'd been some warning. If only there'd been some warning out there somewhere. For President Trump, tariffs are a way of protecting American industries and safeguarding national security. For Tracy Skupian, they're a calamity that has pitched her company into crisis. Skupian is director of operations at Tompkins Products, a small family business in Detroit that takes imported cold-drawn aluminum bar and turns it into transmission valves and other components for the U.S. auto industry. Oh, you remember when Barack Obama saved the auto industry, Blue Gal? Bailed it out?
I do. And there were Republicans that didn't want him to do it. Just let it die.
Yeah, yep. Mitt Romney was one of them.
Yep.
But Barack Obama saved millions and millions of jobs. And so they nominated and elected the king of the birthers. Last week's move by Trump to impose a 25% tariff on all imports of steel and aluminum will make Tompkins' main input a lot more expensive unless she can source everything she needs from her one U.S. supplier. A big ask at such short notice. Obviously, there's no way I can absorb such a massive increase in the price of my material, she says. That's just not feasible. Across the U.S., business people are warning that the new trade war could drive up costs, disrupt supply chains, and hurt profits and make a whole range of products more expensive for American consumers. No, that's not true. Tariffs are paid by invisible magic people outside the U.S. borders and not by American consumers and taxpayers, blue gal. I've heard that repeated by Donald Trump at least 1 trillion times in the last 4 years. Jim Farley, chief executive at Ford, said the impact on the automotive sector would be catastrophic. Long-term, a 25% tariff across the Mexico and Canadian border would blow a hole in the U.S. industry that we have never seen, he told the conference on Tuesday. Even one of Wall Street's biggest Republican donors felt compelled to speak out. The quote-unquote uncertainty and chaos created by Trump's trade moves against the U.S.'s closest allies will end up being a, quote, impediment to growth, Ken Griffin, the billionaire founder of the hedge fund Citadel, told a conference on Tuesday. Trump's bombastic rhetoric had seared into the minds of CEOs and policymakers. We can't depend upon America as our trading partner, he added, unquote.
From Social Security Works, this is a story that just makes me so stabby.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
Elon Musk is stealing your personal Social Security data. The following is a statement from Nancy Altman, president of Social Security Works, on reports that acting commissioner of Social Security Michelle King left her position after refusing to hand over private Social Security data to billionaire Elon Musk. The information collected and securely held by the Social Security Administration is highly sensitive. SSA has data on everyone who has a Social Security number, which is virtually all Americans, everyone who has Medicare, and every low-income American who has applied for Social Security's means-tested companion program, Supplemental Security Income. SSA has comprehensive medical records of people who have applied for disability benefits. It has our bank information, our earnings records, the names and ages of our children, and more. Older people are disproportionately susceptible to scams. The data at SSA leaking would make the numbers of scams skyrocket. And if there is an intent to punish perceived enemies, someone could erase your earnings record, making it impossible to collect the Social Security and Medicare benefits you have earned, unquote.
Yeah. This next story is from Wired, and we've talked about it before, and we wouldn't bring it up again, but so many MAGA idiots are still out there shrieking about Musk finding 150-year-old cheaters ripping off the Social Security fund for zillions of dollars because he's an idiot who doesn't understand anything about that he's talking about. Quote, while no evidence was produced to back up this claim, it was picked up by the right-wing commentators online, primarily on Musk's own X platform. This was all outlined by Jesse Waters, wasn't it, Blue Gal?
Yes, it was.
This is how this shit works.
Yep.
As well as being reported credibly by pro-Trump media outlets, just like Jesse Waters said. Computer programmers quickly claimed that the 150-year-old figure was not evidence of fraud, but rather the result of a weird quirk of the Social Security Administration benefit system, which was largely written in COBOL, a 60-year-old programming language, it's actually older than that undergirds SSA's databases as well as systems from many other U.S. government agencies and a few insurance companies I could name. COBOL is rarely used today, but it's maintained like hell, and I can attest to that. Yep. And as such, because it's considered capital equipment, and replacing it is just insanely expensive. So if it works, if it's a check writing system, why would you replace it? And as such, Musk's cadre of young engineers may well be unfamiliar with it. Yeah. You think so? Because COBOL does not have a data type. Some implementations rely instead on a system whereby all dates are coded to a reference point. The most commonly used reference point is May 20th, 1875. And this was the date of an international standard-setting conference held in Paris known as the Convention du Mètre. These systems default to the reference point when a birth date is missing or incomplete, meaning all of those entries in 2025 would show an age of 150. So far, so good, right? It's just a fucking glitch in COBOL. It's not about cheating. Yep. That's just one possible explanation for what DOJ allegedly found. Musk could also have simply looked up the SSA's own website, which explains that since September of 2015, the Obama administration, the agency has been automatically stopping benefits payments when anyone reaches the age of 115. However, on Monday morning, Musk doubled down because he's a big loudmouth asshole, posting a screenshot of what he claims were figures from the Social Security database to X, writing that the numbers of people in each age bucket with the death field set to false. The figures suggest that over 10 million people aged over 120 were collecting benefits. Maybe Twilight is real, and there are lots of vampires collecting Social Security, Musk wrote, because he has no sense of humor at all. Although the yes men around him keep telling him how fucking funny he is. Mm-hmm. The database Musk took the screenshot from listed almost 400 million people, which is more than 5 times the number of people receiving benefits in 2024. According to the SSA's own website.
Yeah.
It's also significantly higher than the entire population of the United States.
Excuse me.
But he did not notice that because the vampires and such and so forth. The fact that the Social Security system contains millions of entries from people who are dead is likely distinct from a potential COBOL-caused error and also not news.
Yeah.
A report written by the SSA's Inspector General in 2023 found that 98% of those aged 100 and older in the Social Security databases are not in receipt of any benefits. The report added that the database would not be updated because, oh my goodness, it would cost too much money to do so.
Too much money.
Unquote. And that, all my time working with COBOL at insurance companies and banks, this was always the case. We've already spent a shit ton of money on these things. They work okay. We're going to keep them until the last dog dies. The last time there was a significant COBOL intervention was Y2K.
Yeah.
And it was to correct the fact that there's only 2 digits set aside for dates. And you needed more than that or the entire world would collapse. And COBOL programmers went to work and fixed it. But this system is running under a whole bunch of stuff. And these idiots don't understand any of it. But they're in there whacking away people, firing, literally decimating, firing 10% of workforce without considering anything about what these people know or how hard it's going to be to replace them or what's going to happen in 10 years when we need them to have been trained for 10 years to take over.
Or who within your district and your constituency, Republican congressmen, are going to be so affected that they're actually going to vote against your party.
Right. Right. And you can only blame Biden and Obama so long.
You remember the Obamacare vote.
Yep.
And how you all thought, oh, we've been listening to Fox. We know everybody wants us to get rid of Obamacare.
Sure.
So, of course, we're going to vote for it and have a party in the Rose Garden because this is a victory for all the stories we've heard on Fox News about how the viewers don't love this. They want it gone.
Right.
41 seats in the House. They lost. And the Democrats sang, na, hey, goodbye.
Yeah.
Because they knew your constituents better than you did.
Well, to be fair, those constituents still hate Obamacare, but they love the Affordable Care Act, Blue Gal.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And they didn't understand because Affordable Care Act's good and Obamacare is bad.
Mm-hmm. I know, because Jesse Water told me so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, hey, Driftglass, let's do local news.
All right.
We are living in strange times and a strange timeline. This is from Chicago Sun-Times. We are living in a strange timeline. And let's preface this by saying Mike Madigan is a Democrat. Rob Blagojevich was ostensibly a Democrat.
Yep.
And both of them are corrupt AF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Madigan was like the last survivor of the
machine, right? The Democratic machine.
Of the Fast Eddie aldermanic revolt against Harold Washington.
Yep.
He's one of the last people who is of that era, and he is corrupt as fuck, and everybody knows he's corrupt as fuck.
Yep.
And he's been under investigation forever. And you know what? As a Democrat from Chicago, who lived in Chicago, I'm delighted that they impeached Rod Blagojevich and put him in jail, and I'm delighted that they're convicting Mike Madigan. I have no loyalty to people in my party who are that corrupt.
Right. And when someone's this corrupt, we want to see justice.
We want them gone because they're bad. They're bad for the people that were they were hired to protect and serve.
Exactly. So we preface that, right? Everybody got that? Okay.
Yep.
Quote, This is Chicago Sun-Times. Mike Madigan knew for a very long time that the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI badly wanted to put his head on a spike. It was no secret. Everybody knew it. Madigan was investigated over and over again, but nothing ever came of it. This was a guy they wanted to go after, and they gathered as much as they could against him, and something stuck. The Madigan-McLean jury foreman told the Chicago Tribune. After the now pardoned Rod Blagojevich was arrested, and by the way, he was pardoned because he cozied up to Trump. He was on Celebrity Apprentice.
Exactly.
After, his jail term and so forth. So he's done everything he can to be, because corrupt recognizes corrupt.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
He knew he could get a pardon and get TV time and get a good job or whatever. He could get stuff. So the now pardoned by Trump, Rod Blagojevich was arrested by the feds in a pre-dawn raid on unseemly corruption charges. He was trying to sell Barack Obama's Senate seat.
Among other things, yeah.
Among other things. And was impeached by Madigan's house. Then Lieutenant Governor Pat Quinn appointed a blue ribbon committee to recommend ethics changes chaired by former Assistant U.S. Attorney Patrick Collins, who had helped put Governor George Ryan in prison.
Yeah, we have the distinction of having governors go to prison back-to-back, one Republican, one Democrat. That's one of Illinois' proudest moments.
And then we started electing billionaires as governors.
Yeah.
And one turned out to be awful. And one has turned out to be fantastic.
Yeah. Oh,
no complaints.
No complaints so far.
Really well.
Yeah.
JB. All right. But instead of focusing mainly on the executive branch, which had seen the indictments of 2 governors in a row by that time, the former prosecutor Collins Commission focused quite significant attention on the General Assembly and on Madigan in particular. Most folks just figured that Mike Madigan had avoided the long arm of the federal law by being extra careful. He wasn't stupid, that's for sure. And he may have been, but the arrogance of immense power apparently overrode his sense of self-preservation. He paid a big price last week. 2 days after Blagojevich received a full pardon from President Donald Trump. Try to put that in a movie and they'll tell you it just wasn't believable. The jury believed the prosecution's persuasive arguments that Madigan knew of the move to put the speaker's cronies into do-nothing ComEd-related jobs. 4 counts. Madigan's insanely unwise decision to associate himself with the widely known scumbag Danny, is it Solis?
Solis.
Solis. Danny Solis. Widely known scumbag Danny Solis. Got him guilty verdicts on 6 more counts. Madigan was convicted on 10 of 23 charges. So that tells me that the jury went through the evidence carefully.
Yeah, they tossed out, as I read it, they tossed out the RICO charge, which was, they said, that you're overreaching. He wasn't involved in that. That is not applicable. We're not going to convict him on that. But the other 10, guilty as fuck.
Doesn't surprise. Prosecutors love to stack on RICO charges wherever possible. That's the thing they do. It's possible that Madigan, who's 82 years old, could spend the rest of his life in prison, while Blagojevich may end up serving as the U.S. ambassador to Serbia.
Yeah. The ironies are thick.
Feel free to write to both of us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email, or U.S. Postal Service, go Postal Unions, letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Fire DeJoy.
Yes. Well, and replace him with someone better.
They're obviously going to replace him with some jackass. I mean, we aren't going to give up on the postal unions, okay?
Don't forget our gourmet coffee guidelines. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage or provide us with a do-nothing ComEd job, which, a little bit more expensive, but we'll take it because this is a do-nothing job. For yourself, buy one for us. Buy us an alderman. Don't be cheap. Buy us a whole alderman. This is not charity. This is our job. If you can spare $5 a month, please spare $5 a month at patreon.com/proleftpod. Let me mention, we've gotten a few new Patreons in the last couple of weeks.
Yes, we have. And someone increased their Patreon this week also. Thank you.
They bumped their Patreon up. So little by little, organically, we are in fact growing this podcast. And we did it ourselves with no help from anyone. No one helps us. No, we've gotten good press from Bob Seska, from Cliff Schechter, being on the Bradcast. All of our podcast friends and fellow travelers and all of you wonderful people out there are why we're able to do this. So thank you. Yeah. Keep up the good work. Also, please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, try to get someone else to listen to it because we really, really do appreciate that. It helps us out a bunch.
One of the big expenses we have going as a family, and I want to credit middle child because poor thing has to have all 4 wisdom teeth out this spring.
Yeah.
And she was upset about how much it was going to cost.
Uh-huh.
And we're taking that on.
Yeah.
We are taking that on. And she has dental insurance, which moves it from the mid 4 figures to the lower quarter of 4 figures.
I volunteered to do the thread and doorknob approach to this.
No,
but
you can't do that with wisdom teeth.
No,
it's going to be a tough week for her. I think she'll bounce back pretty quickly, but because she's 22. But man, I'm feeling for her, and we are going to feel it in our pocketbook.
We are.
But if you have any advice for her in covering that,
it's going to take a bite out of her budget. You might say, Blue Gal.
You might say that. Uh-huh. Yeah, all 4 though. That's just
that's tough.
Awful
that's
lot.
Tough.
Awful.
I will save the and then she'll keep her mouth shut for at least 3 days jokes for later because we love her to death.
She's not shy.
No.
Yeah. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, speaking of, unfortunate events, the Internet Kitties are wondering when the hell the temperature is going to get back into the double digits, Blue Gal. Because it's cold here. It's cold here.
Real cold.
It's
Negative.
below 0 here.
Yeah,
it's real cold, and it's going to stay cold for a few days. And then it's going to be 70 or whatever.
It's going to be like 45 next week. Yeah, which we'll be sunbathing on the deck.
Yeah, you will see me in my cargo shorts and T-shirt out on the deck going,
out in the garage.
Thank God.
With all those tools from Harbor Freight in the garage. Yeah.
Thank God summer's here. Oh, wait, it's February. Oh, no. This isn't going to last, is it? No, it's not. Love you, darling.
Love you too. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25. GGBG Productions.